Welcome to the Week 14 Fantasy Flex Props Podcast presented by Prize Picks. I am your host, Chris Raybon, joined as always by my dude, Sean Koerner. Sean, what's going on? Congrats on the number 2 finish in Fantasy Pros this week.
Yeah, congrats on the number 1 finish. And,
Thank you.
I hinted at it, I believe it was our Tuesday or Monday pod. But I was like, I think I did really good in the Fantasy Pros contest. And then after we recorded, I was like, I think you did too. Because anytime I checked a player, I was way different than everybody else. You were way different too. So congrats on number 1, the 1-2 sweep. Can't beat it. And we've been kind of rolling these past few weeks. I think, we have enough data now. We're just crunching numbers. Like, I think we're in our prime right now. So let's keep it going.
Yeah, I hit the perfect 5 play.
Oh, yeah.
Flex play on this pod last week. Tweeted that out. So yeah, it's been a good week. So we're probably due for regression. So
no, don't
take everything we say with a grain of salt.
No, we were due for that massive outbreak, is what I've been saying. And yeah, no surprise, our DK and FanDuel teams crushed.
Yeah.
Just had a really good week. I feel like this happens every year. We were really high on Jalen Hurts towards the end of last season. Like, this is the time to get it right when we're entering, fantasy playoff time, heading into the playoffs. So no, I think we're going to keep it going this week.
Yeah, at least Jalen Hurts didn't have a broken finger last year, because I want to be high on Taysom Hill, but he. But yeah, we'll get into for those who are new to the show, we'll give our 10 favorite props presented by Prize Picks, and we'll start it off as we always do with the Showdown Slate preview. We'll do the Sunday Showdown Slate on this show, and that is the Chicago Bears at the Green Bay Packers. For those interested in betting the game, I'll have a preview up at actionnetwork.com on Saturday. But Sean, as far as how we're kind of attacking this slate, I think the captain spot is probably fairly simple. It's, Devontae Adams and maybe some David Montgomery. Those are guys you're kind of thinking about in that spot?
Well, first of all, let me just complain that why did they flex this game of all games? I would love to have like Bills Bucks be Sunday Night Football. So yeah, we're stuck with this slate where I think Devontae is the obvious play, but he's dealing with a hammy injury, it looks like, and this should be a blowout. I think the Packers are 12-point favorites. So I'm willing to pivot away from Devontae. I think there's some options here. You have Darnell Mooney if Allen Robinson sits out again. David Montgomery is another good option. Either one of like Aaron Jones or AJ Dillon could go off here. But I'm thinking Justin Fields for the captain slot, because, this should be a negative game script. He does like to spread it around. So if Allen Robinson returns, that's going to help Fields out. And then he has that rushing upside. So I think I tend to use wide receivers in the captain slot, but I think this one, it makes sense to use a quarterback in Justin Fields. And then, add 2 or 3 pass catchers here. And then send it back with, a Packers running back or something. There's a lot of different things to do here, but I think Fields has the highest ceiling. So I might go him here.
Yeah, in terms of value, you mean ceiling in terms of relative to his multiplier, or higher than Devontae, raw?
Oh, well, obviously, I think Devontae is the best pure value play, but I'm saying based on rostership, based on the potential game script, everything. He's kind of a cheat code captain, whereas we're talking just basic raw value. Obviously, Devontae takes the cake.
Yeah, I don't know. These Wednesday injury reports, I mean, I don't know how bad his hamstring is. I did notice Allen Robinson returned to practice, so that is good for Justin Fields and for the Bears for this game in general. Akeem Hicks, I think, back on defense for them as well. So they may be able to keep it a little closer than people think. All right, for DFS cheat codes, who do you like in this game?
Well, on the Bears side, I think Jakeem Grant is sneaky. He's played really well. Allen Robinson and Marquise Goodwin were out last week, and he stepped up big. And they're saying even once Allen Robinson and even Goodwin returns, he should be their number 3 receiver. So he's kind of one of those guys. We're in a full PPR set like DK. I like throwing him in there. If Allen Robinson misses, I think he's going to be pretty obvious as a cheat code. And then, also Jimmy Graham, if there were ever a guy that's going to get a troll touchdown, it's him. So I'm willing to throw in a couple Jimmy Graham lineups, and it's a revenge game for him against the Packers. So I like Graham as well. And then on the Packers side, anytime Marquise Valdez-Scantling is active, you have to consider him as a, high upside flyer. So, there's a chance Randall Cobb doesn't suit up. So that's more snaps for, guys like Scantling and Alan Lazard. So I think those guys I'll be targeting as well. But yeah, and then the running backs, it's kind of a toss up. I think if Aaron Jones, he should play. I think AJ Dillon's a cheat code because he could end up having, more touches, especially, if the Packers blow him out. I could see Dillon, dominating the second half in terms of touches. So I think AJ Dillon's a cheat code as well.
Yeah, Jakeem Grant was the guy who really stood out to me. He's just been playing well in that role for Chicago, and I think he gives them the most juice in that number 3 receiver spot. So really, I think his status may depend not just on Robinson, but also Marquise Goodwin, who missed last game, but looks like he's returned to practice. I wouldn't be surprised if Grant overtakes Goodwin either way, though. So, yeah, he's the guy for me. And then I did notice for the Packers that Josiah DeGuara ran a route on 61% of the dropbacks in the last game. So he's been kind of trending upward in terms of his usage in that tight end spot, filling in for Robert Tonyan. So he's a guy to watch as well. It might be worth throwing in a lineup or two because he could also get a cheap touchdown, and he's kind of leverage on Devontae Adams. Like if he gets a touchdown, maybe Adams does. And I think Adams had like only 4 catches for 89 yards in the first matchup. So if he gets that line without a touchdown, it's going to hurt a lot of people who play him in the captain spot. So you got to find some other Packers who might score instead. So yeah, like DeGuara, Valdez-Scantling is always a good call, obviously, as well.
Yeah, I saw the DeGuara usage as well. It seems like no matter what his underlying usage is, he ends with 2 catches and 20 yards regardless. So we pretty much know what we're going to get with him, but he still has that sneaky touchdown upside. Like you said, if you want to leverage off of Adams, I could go with DeGuara as well. But yeah, I think there's a ton of options. And later in the week we'll have a better idea. But yeah, right now, like guys like Montgomery, AJ Dillon, Aaron Jones, guys like that, I think are going to be in most of my lineups.
All right, let's get into our props presented by Prize Picks. Sean, we do a quarterback, 2 running back props, and then 2 receiving props each show. Start us off with your QB prop for week 14.
So I hate to do this, but I'm going with Justin Herbert under 290 passing yards against the Giants. Now, Keenan Allen and Mike Williams are both on the COVID list. It looks like Mike Williams is unlikely to play. And Keenan Allen, it's kind of up in the air if he's going to end up playing or not. So right now I'm projecting Herbert closer to 275 with Mike Williams out. But if Keenan Allen were to miss, I mean, he's going to drop down to 265, potentially even lower. So I like getting on this early at 290. They're facing the Giants, who could be starting Jake Fromm here. And, they're still double-digit favorites, I believe. So this is a game where they could just lean on Austin Ekeler, and I don't think Herbert's going to have to throw too much to put away the Giants. So I love getting on this under early, just in case Keenan Allen ends up missing this week. So, I'm projecting this 15 to 20 yards under as we speak, and it could only go lower. So why not lock it in right now?
Yeah, I like that. Herbert came through for us on the pod last week with over, I think it was like 270 something. And I like that because, I thought against the Bengals, you're going to have to throw the ball. You're not going to beat the Bengals by, just kind of not scoring points. But here it's the exact opposite against the New York Giants. I mean, it might be first team to 17 points in this game, especially given the circumstances and the injuries. So, passing usually is dictated by, kind of the overall game script. And this one seems like a low scoring game where both teams are more interested in keeping it on the ground. You got 2 of the worst run defenses, by the way, in this game. So this is not a passing game. So yeah, that Herbert under stood out to me as well. For my quarterback prop, I'm going with Kyler Murray over 250.5 passing yards against the Rams. And Kyler's been over this number in 6 of 9 games this season. He was 17 yards over this number in the first matchup. He had 268 against the Rams. All his receivers are healthy. Hopkins, Ertz is there now. So he's got a full complement of weapons, pretty much aside from the running back Edmonds. But Connor's been even better than Edmonds. And The Rams love to play zone coverage, and the Cardinals have been a lot better throwing against zone coverage than they have against man this year. So I think everything's set up for Kyler to go over this number. It's supposed to be a close game. The spread is lower than a field goal with the total over 50. I believe it's 52.5 as we record this on Thursday. So everything's kind of set up for a pass heavy game script, kind of the opposite of Justin Herbert going against the Giants.
Yeah, I like this call. I'm about 15, 20 yards above this. And I like buying the dip on him. Last week, he returned after 3-game absence. So we expected a bit of rest, but there was inclement weather as well. So that, he only threw for 123 yards, but he leaned on his legs more. They didn't have to throw too much. So I think the market's kind of overreacting to his return last week. And yeah, just based on this game script, potential for a blowout, a shootout, I'm projecting this closer to 265. So I love the over as well.
Yeah, there was no real rust. That throw to Hopkins, you're playing the Bears.
Saying we would have expected more rust because all these quarterbacks have been missing some time. They come back looking like shit, but he actually looked really good, especially, with his legs. So yeah, I think he's fully back. He was my QB1 to begin the week. He's down to QB5, but I still love him this week.
Oh yeah. It was so close somewhere in the middle. Yeah.
It was so close at the top. So one slight tweak can send the guy up or down 4 slots. So that's why he moved down.
Is it Mahomes for you or Allen or Tom Brady?
It's Allen right now, but again, it's all close. And when I make my late week adjustment to just give Brady 3 touchdowns, he'll probably end up number 1. Yeah. I've been learning to do that from you. So yeah, it's so tight up top. And yeah, Herbert slid down a bit. So I think Kyler's going to end up being my QB3 if I had to guess. And yeah, Brady 2 or 1 and Allen, Mahomes right there, but it's close.
All right. First running back prop.
So I like Antonio Gibson over 65.5 rushing yards against the Cowboys. So, ever since their week 10 bye, the football team has become, extreme run heavy offense. Their 53% run rate ranks 3rd highest behind only the 49ers and Eagles. And Gibson's been a huge part of that. I think he's been able to overcome that shin injury. He's probably still dealing with some pain, but at least he's able to play through it now. But he's become, true workhorse back over that span, seeing 23 plus carries in 3 of the past 4 games, clearing this number in 3 of the past 4 games. So going up against the Cowboys, they're going to want to keep, the Dallas offense off the field. So I think they're going to be run heavy again this week. I'm projecting Gibson closer to 76.5 rushing yards. So over 10 yards over this prop. So love the over 65.5. I think he has a very high floor. So give me the over here.
Yeah, I don't think it matters whether McKissick is back or not, because as you mentioned, they've recommitted to the run since the bye week. In the 2 games prior to McKissick going down, Gibson averaged 21.5 carries per game. So you would be projecting him to clear that number easily at that rate. And then in the game McKissick went down, it's not like he missed the whole game. Gibson still got 29 carries. And then last week he got 23. So it's been pretty consistent in or out for J.D. McKissick. It's Antonio Gibson's going to get around, 20, 25 or more carries. So yeah, the only way he fails to hit this is if I think it's just one of those games where he gets stuffed a lot at the line of scrimmage, which I don't think will happen because Dallas is 4th in DVOA against the pass, but they're 19th. It's 19th against the run. So that is a little bit of a funnel here. So Washington should be able to run a ball.
Absolutely. And yeah, if McKissick plays, I think if anything, they'll give him a breather on passing downs, which will just mean more rushing work for him. So I'm hoping McKissick plays for the sake of this prop.
It doesn't look like he is going to play because I noticed that Washington signed Jonathan Williams from, I forget whose practice squad he was on. I think the Giants or something like that. But when you sign a guy from another team's practice squad, that means he's on the active roster. So they essentially signed Jonathan Williams to the active roster, which actually doesn't look good for McKissick long-term, if that's going to be the case.
Yeah.
They do have Jarrett Patterson there as well as in that 3rd string role. So that was kind of a move that got my attention, but it seems like McKissick's going to be out again. All right. For my first running back prop, I am going with Austin Ekeler over 53.5 rushing yards. We kind of set this up already talking about we expect Herbert to go under. I mean, the whole Chargers receiver room is in flux. Who knows if it's a cluster COVID issue? There could be more, scratches coming. So, or guys placed on the list. And if they're placed on the list, after the time we record this, they're out. Definitely. I don't think they would have enough time really to get those 2 negative tests. So Ekeler over 53.5. He's been over this number in 8 of 12. So I think this number is too low either way, especially against the Giants defense that's 31st in run defense DVOA. The Chargers might keep all 3 of their backup running backs active for the second time all year, as they did last week, but I don't think it matters. We're going to see Ekeler getting the majority of the usage. He's been slightly trending upward as the season's progressed in terms of his percentage of the backfield carries. He was getting in the high 50s. Then it was the low 60s. And now he's getting around 70% of the backfield carries for the Chargers. He's my overall RB1 this week, unless we hear something crazy about his quote unquote bumps and bruises. I think he's going to stay there. So love him over 53.5. I have him going over this by at least 10 yards.
Yeah, I'm right with you there. And it's amazing he's cleared this number so many times this year. He doesn't really see that much volume. I think he's only had 15 more rush attempts, like 3 games this year. So he doesn't even need that much volume. And he could see a season high in terms of carries here. So I love the correlation with this over and Justin Herbert under, just based on all the things we said. But yeah, this is a smash play for me as well.
It must be the perception, because I know, watching the Chargers games that I don't think the fan base of the team feels like they have a good rushing attack, because they're always like, the Chargers aren't able to physically run the ball, and it's like a struggle, and it's more to do with the O-line. But yeah, Ekeler is always, getting his, like, it's not his issue. So yeah, I think the number's too low. Where are you going with your second running back prop?
I'm going with Elijah Mitchell over 75 and 71.5. It's that low rushing yards against the Bengals. Now, granted, he's dealing with a concussion, a knee injury. He might not play, but if he doesn't play, it's a push. So if he's active, this number is way too low. And he's been playing through injuries, it seems like, all season. So he seems like a really tough back. So I expect him to be out there. And, the 49ers are an extreme run heavy team right now. Since, week 10, they're the second highest in terms of rush rate, only behind the Eagles. And the big reason is just they lean on Elijah Mitchell. So, he's cleared this number for the past 6 games since their week 6 bye. And I'm projecting him closer to 84.5 here. Jermichael Hasty, I think, is the only healthy back on the depth chart right now. So if Mitchell's active, I don't see how he doesn't clear this number. So he has a really high floor. So I'm going to lock it in now. And again, if he doesn't play, it's almost like this bet doesn't count. So this is sort of a free play if he does suit up.
Yeah, I have him at 87.5. I expect him to get 20 carries if active. Yep. Although, remember, it's not about toughness when it comes to concussions, though.
It's about
you got the head injury, you don't play. Yeah,
it's about being able to suit up or not is what it comes down to.
Just wanted to get that out of the way. Don't want guys try to tough out concussions at any level. But yeah, it's too low. I think the 49ers, this is December football. They want to be more physical than you. They have that great offensive line. So if he's active, I would think he's going to get close to 100 yards against this Bengal defense. All right. For my second running back prop, I'm going with Chuba Hubbard over 52.5 rushing yards. He was over this number in 4 of his 5 starts. Atlanta's 23rd in run defense DVOA. And Matt Rule says he wants to run it 33 or more times per game. So I think Amir Abdullah will absolutely mix in on passing downs, but Hubbard's been their go-to running back. And I don't see a situation where the game script gets out of hand. Remember, Carolina won in Atlanta 19-13. With Sam Darnold getting like 5 concussions and PJ Walker almost throwing a pick 6 at the goal line. So I think Carolina will be able to control this game outdoors, coming off the bye. And I think Hubbard will approach 20 carries in this game, quite honestly, just based on the way they want to play this. So Chuba Hubbard, I know he hasn't started in a while, so the number's a little low, kind of easing it back in here. But I think this number is going to be maybe 15 to 20 yards higher if we're talking about it next week.
Yeah, I agree. And, so much of, rushing prop has to do with projected game script, how many times the team's going to run the ball. So yeah, I have it 17.5 carries for 65 yards. So like you said, if the Panthers are saying we want to run the shell of the ball, they're going to run the shell of the ball. That's why I love the Stevenson over prop on Monday night, because, we knew the Patriots are going to have to run in those, windy conditions. So This market is probably 15 yards too low. And when it comes to rushing props, that's massive. So I'm right there with you. I let you have this one because you called it way early in the week, but I'm right there with you. And it's an easy matchup against the Falcons. So I'm all about this one.
All right, where are you going with your first receiver prop?
So I might have stolen this from you. I don't know, but I'm going with Byron Pringle over 20.5 receiving yards against the Raiders. We've seen his playing time shoot way up the past 3 games. He's basically taken over as the number 2 receiver for the Chiefs. And, last week he had a season high routes run rate of 75%. He only went, 1 catch for 14 yards, but a lot of that had to do with Mahomes only throwing for 184 yards last week. So this week, where I think Mahomes is going to clear his 275-yard passing prop, I think Pringle's going to benefit. We saw Mahomes throw for over 400 yards against this Raiders defense just a few games ago, and Pringle, he went for 4 catches, 46 yards in that game. So I'm expecting bigger output by Pringle here. I'm projecting this closer to 30.5, so 10 yards over this. So love the over here.
Yeah, Byron Pringle is the reverse Brian Edwards. Like, he's the exact opposite. So Brian Edwards, essentially, for those that don't know, like, if you look at the man zone splits, Brian Edwards is invisible against zone coverage, essentially, which is weird because zone coverage teams play that, most like 2/3 of the snaps on average. And he does really well against man. It's like yards per route is like 3 times as much. Byron Pringle, and remember, this Raiders team, they're the zone heaviest team in the NFL. Against man coverage, which the Raiders pretty much don't play, Byron Pringle averages 0.36 yards per route against man coverage. Against zone, 1.87. So that's like 5 times as many, as 5 times as much effectiveness against zone coverage than against man. And the Raiders, that's what they're going to do. I mean, I think they need to do more cover 2 this game and stop playing single high, which they did last game when Mahomes went off. But either way, I think that's why you're seeing Pringle's playing time go up, because your leaders for the Chiefs in yards per route against zone, Tyreek Hill, 2.09, according to Pro Football Focus. Then Travis Kelce at 1.92. Third place, Byron Pringle, 1.87. And teams play zone most of the time on defense. So I think they're kind of looking for that third guy. And Pringle's been the most effective against the coverages that they get the most often, because it's tough to play man against Mahomes in that receiving core. So you're going to stay in zone. It's not like you're going to blitz. Yep. So that's kind of why I think Pringle's been getting the playing time. And I agree. I think this is just, you could get over this on 1 catch, but probably needs 2, but he could get over on 1.
Absolutely. And I do also like that, Hardman's playing time is going down. He's averaged.
I don't.
No, I don't. Yeah. Again, everything's always in the context of what I'm talking about.
Like, why is that happening?
I always think Hardman should play more, but Hardman's seeing 18% target per route run, whereas Demarcus Robinson is constantly running wind sprints. He's closer to 8% per route run. He's going to see a target, so that helps a player like Pringle that's running alongside Demarcus Robinson, who only sees targets until he clears my under 1.5 receptions prop, and then he goes quiet. But I just think based on who's on the field, Pringle's going to benefit going forward.
If Demarcus Robinson is running wind sprints, does that mean Josh Gordon is running tsunami sprints? Tornado sprints? Or
I don't know what he's doing out there.
like the fact that he's getting more routes than Hardman is perplexing.
Absolutely absurd. Yeah, I would agree with that.
All right, for my first receiving prop, we're just going to run this back because the number went down. I hit the over. I played an over on Convince Me, and I hit it, and the number went down. Mike Evans, over 54.5 receiving yards. Why is the number going down? This is Buffalo without Tre'Davious White, people. Like, what's going on here? So Mike Evans has been over this number of 54.5 in 8 out of his 12 games. His median is 74 on the year. Buffalo, as we talked about on the main slate pod, which is out right now, go listen to it. Buffalo has no cornerbacks over 192 pounds. Like, who's covering Mike Evans, right? And it's like you can't. And what are you doing with the safeties? Because you're the best, you're always one of the best teams against the tight end, but now you got to defend Gronk. You might have to defend Cam Brate because they might go heavy after New England just ran all over you. They might, force you to take Johnson off the field. But either way, like, who's covering Evans on the perimeter? That's all of 190 pounds. Nobody. It's like, this is a smash over for me. Mike Evans over 54 and a half receiving yards against the Bills.
Yeah, I'm with you here, and it is kind of perplexing that it's going down. It sort of feels like one of those like promos where they have Josh Allen, will he throw for over 1 passing yard?
Right. Yeah.
It's like a free play. It's like they're almost begging you to take this. And yeah, I'm taking the bait with you. I think he goes over, especially since I don't think Chris Godwin's going to see 100 targets again this week. I think Evans will benefit from, them evening the target share out a little bit. But yeah, it's kind of weird. He has a really high floor this year. We're not used to seeing that. So I'll stick with you on the Evans over here. And I like it as well.
His career, he has a pretty high floor, over 1,000 yards every year. Well, I mean, he's going straight to the Hall of Fame at this point.
Because he always has a few games a year where he just goes bonkers. But right. Yeah, week to week this season, he's had a high floor. It's been kind of interesting to see. But yeah, love the over as well.
Might have something to do with his quarterback.
Yeah, he's pretty good.
Where are you going with your second receiving prop?
So I'm taking another under. First week I've taken 2 or more unders, I think, in a while. But Noah Fant under 35.5 receiving yards against the Lions. This could end up being a run heavy game script. I think, the Broncos should win this game pretty easily. And they just have too many pass catchers. Jerry Jeudy, Cortland Sutton, Tim Patrick. So they might have 1 or 2 players go over, but then the rest tend to go under. So all their pass catchers kind of have a sneaky low floor. So I think Fant's going to be sort of the odd man out this week. We've seen that happen in their wins this year. He's only gone over this once in the 5 games where he's been active and they won a game this year. So I'm projecting him closer to like 28.5 here. So I'm going with the under here, under 35.5 receiving yards for Noah Fant this week.
I don't know if Viking fans think the Broncos are going to easily win this game, but yeah, Noah Fant's kind of been lost in the shuffle. Jerry Jeudy's return has kind of complicated things for every other Denver pass catcher, because there wasn't like there was a ton of production to go around. But yeah, it's really Judy's kind of that alpha dog now. And if there's anybody that's a threat to clear their receiving prop, it's him, and probably one of the running backs after that. So yeah, I don't hate this at all. I'm a little under it as well. Fant's just kind of falling down that tight end list in terms of my rankings. I think he's like 15 or 16 this week, which seems crazy because doesn't seem like there's a lot of tight ends, but they're just not. It just hasn't been that, reliable production, and you're just not projecting Denver for a lot of pass volume, especially in a game like this. So, it's kind of a toss up here, but I mean, at least he's getting a prop. Cortland Sutton has been so invisible. Yeah, he's not even getting lines posted for him anymore.
Well, it's got to be tough. Like, what are you supposed to post from, like 25.5? There's no way. He's just really hard to cap right now. So he's unproppable right now, which is crazy.
Just take whatever Demarcus Robinson's prop is and give it to Cortland Sutton.
Yeah, seriously.
All right. For my second receiving prop, I'm going with Cole Beasley over 36.5 receiving yards. I know you liked his over on Monday night. I don't think that quite got there, but I do. I'm gonna, in your honor, go with him, and I think he gets over in this matchup. So if you look at the Bucks defense, they play the 5th most zone coverage in the league, and after Stephon Diggs, the number 2 receiver on the Bills in terms of yards per route run against zone coverage, according to Pro Football Focus, is Beasley at 1.83. So when you have a defense like this, Beasley usually is the guy that you're going to go to. He's going to find spots in that zone coverage. Emmanuel Sanders is really struggling, but he averages about a half yard less per route versus zone coverage this year. Dawson Knox around the same. So I know there's a lot of love for like Knox out there too, but I think Beasley's actually going to be that second go-to target here. And we have the benefit of, possibly a game script that kind of, goes into somewhat of a shootout. You have a high total game, close projected game spread is, I think, 3.5. And I think Beasley is going to get over this one here after some quiet games. That game against the Patriots, you have to just throw it away. I mean, the wind and a lot of man coverage too. So not the type of game necessarily that Beasley would have as much success on. So I think this is the spot where you buy Cole Beasley. So I have him in the low 40s here.
Yeah, I'm with you here. And thank you for taking this, my honor. From last week. And to be fair, he would have gone over. He had a catch on the sideline, I believe it was, where he just barely stepped out. And if they ruled out a catch, he would have gone over his prop. But I love kind of like buying in on this Bills offense after that, really win-driven game. Love Beasley over here as well.
All right, that is going to do it for our props. To recap, Sean's going with Justin Herbert under 290.5 passing yards. Antonio Gibson over 65.5 rushing yards. Elijah Mitchell over 71.5 rushing yards. Byron Pringle over 20.5 receiving yards. And Noah Fant under 35.5 receiving yards. I'm going Kyler Murray over 250.5 passing yards. Chuba Hubbard over 52.5 rushing yards. Austin Ekeler over 53.5 rushing yards. Mike Evans over 54.5 receiving yards, and Cole Beasley over 36.5 receiving yards. That is going to do it for our Week 14 Fantasy Flex Props Pod presented by Prize Picks. You can find our fantasy football rankings, projections, content at actionnetwork.com. You can find our DFS content, tools, and models at fantasylabs.com. You can find Sean on Twitter at @_oddsmaker and me at Chris Raybon. And you can also find us at those same handles in the free award-winning Action Network app. Until next week, let's get this money.